Hey, Maureen.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi. Thanks so much for taking a couple minutes to talk to me.
hmm
So, we met a few months ago. We are a blossoming COVID relationship. So, you and I met when we both sat on the panel for Dealer Magazine back when COVID first started about some of the business practices that are happening throughout some of the stores in our country, because at the time, the Northeast is really feeling it the most.
Yeah.
And when we met, I was so impressed with you. You're the GM of a Subaru store in Pennsylvania. Your store is part of Lithia, which is a huge organization in the car business. And I really wanted to get to know you a little bit more and just let some of the people that I'm connected to in the industry see that not only can women work in the business, but women can also run the business too.
Sure. Of course they can. Is there any doubt about that?
So I know you've been in the business for quite some time, and I'm interested to hear about how you got into the car business and your journey through the business over the last some odd years.
So I I started selling cars when I was 19, and I did go to college. My parents were adamant that I do that, and I really was. I know I don't want to discourage going to college, but for me, it was too soon. I went at 17, and I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. And I spent a lot of time partying and not paying attention to what I was doing and being frustrated. And so I took a break, and I worked at a record store, a record exchange in a suburb of Pittsburgh, making $5.15 an hour. And I had a little apartment, and I walked past dealerships, on the street that I lived on, and it never occurred to me that that was something that I could do. But I had gotten feedback from customers that I would be good in sales. So I asked my dad. My dad is this amazing outside salesperson, business to business, long cycle times. I mean, this guy he can make 100 phone calls a day and get rejected 99 of those calls. I cannot do that. So I said, is there any kind of sales where like I don't have to do door knocking like you do? And he said, well, and I didn't want to have all commission. I thought that was scary. So he said, you should try car sales. I bet they have a salary, which is funny now because they typically do not have a salary.
Right.
But yeah, I started, and I was always the only female. I mean, there was occasionally another female, but it was very rare. And, I think people who are in the car business often get frustrated with it, try to get out, come back, find that they have the bug. And I did that for several years.
Right.
I moved out to Colorado and tried to do something else. And then, of course, there's a car dealership there. So I did sales. I did car sales until 2004, I believe, and that's when I started finance.
Okay.
And I did finance for a little while. I hated finance. I thought I was going to love it. I hated it. I felt like I was trapped in a box, and I wasn't very good at it. And then I was a sales manager, and I did that for several years. And I worked for Cochran Automotive, which is a really large dealership in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And they wanted to start a centralized BDC. And I was a desk manager at the time for their Nissan Hyundai stores. And I applied for this job. I thought it was going to be fewer hours. And technically it was fewer scheduled hours, but I'm a workaholic. So I worked all the time anyway. But I started this BDC for, I think at the time they had 15 stores, internet leads and phone calls. And I hired the whole staff, and I went to school, well, not really school, but training. And I ran that BDC for 3 years, had somebody take over for me, one of the guys I first hired. And then I became a director for that organization. They kept growing, and I was in charge of process development and implementation and lots of company-wide training. And we at that time started a transparency initiative.
Okay.
So the processes that we were developing were based on studying dealer groups that were, that were one price or limited negotiation stores, and trying to focus on how we can come up with our own special sauce pricing to give customers, a low haggle or no haggle experience, and trying to get ahead of the curve there.
Right.
So they're still, I haven't worked for them for 4 years or so now, and they're still doing that.
That's great.
And then, I decided I was going to go to the vendor space for a couple years, and now I'm back here. I'm not GM, but I'm assistant GM. But I started here as the general sales manager, and it's been a really great experience. I didn't think I was going to come back to retail, but here I am, and it's the best thing that I could have done.
That's really interesting. So you made all these process changes when you were at Corcoran, and you went over to the vendor space. Now you're back working at a dealership. So talk to me about some of the challenges that you have faced since you've come into place at the store with making all these process changes.
So there are different challenges that have come up that are I don't know that they're unique to this environment. I suppose if I tell you all these things, you're gonna be able to relate and say that's everywhere.
Right.
But specifically, when I came here, the culture was very ingrained, and the staff had been here for a long time, and they were all very close, and they valued what they knew to be the way they do things. And so first of all, it was disruptive for me to be here, because I look different than who they're used to having be their boss. I sound different. I approach things differently, and that's true of any new person. But I think it was particularly strange to have a little spritey female running around, full of
Not common.
No, it's not common. And there was some resistance just in general to me, particularly with some of my my management staff who saw themselves in the role that I was in. And so there was, a lot of that proving myself and gaining credibility. And I'd also never been a GSM before. So I hadn't even been in retail for, as far as on the floor, in a showroom, it's been since, I guess, 10 years for me. So I was rusty also.
Right.
And the processes that I was used to implementing were very different than the ones that we ended up implementing last year. I would say the first 6 months that I was here, we were doing things the way that they had done them before, which was a very strange combination of we're one price, but we're not really.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of we don't negotiate, we're one price, but then we still did. And it was very fuzzy for people to understand when we did and when we didn't.
Right.
I think it was confusing for our customers.
Right.
The store wasn't as profitable as it could be. And so in January of 2019, we got a new GM, and he and I butted heads. I'm on this transparency kick because I really believed in that model. And I'm not saying not to be transparent, but I believed in that customers really want to know why the price is the price, and why is my trade the trade. And I'm not saying, I don't want to discount and say that customers don't care about that, but I think that as dealerships, we overemphasize how important that is to someone in lieu of trying to achieve what they need to achieve to actually own a vehicle.
Right.
But the point is that when I first met my GM, he had what seemed to me like a pretty archaic sales process. It sounded a lot like a sales process that I was familiar with in 1999, and that customers would not appreciate it, and he's crazy. And so, but he showed me the profitability that he had been able to create in other stores. And so I said, okay, bring it, let's try it.
Right.
And so, so we did training with him. It was just kind of an ad lib training of, you know, what he's everything's in his head, doesn't have everything written down. Took my whole team through it. And myself and my other sales manager, Brent, we just practiced and we just said, we're doing it. One of the things my boss likes to say is, you can't be mostly pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. So when we do something, we're pregnant. And so we got pregnant, and we just put this process in, and within 2 months, we were like, suddenly, I can't say that we were a completely well-oiled machine, but we had people making more money than they had ever made in their lives. We suddenly were finding that we were learning things about ourselves that we didn't know. I've had so much fun with it because, you know, when you start in the car business, and I think this is in most dealerships, there's no training. I mean, you get thrown to the wolves. The focus is very much on, let's ask the customer all these questions about where they want to be payment-wise, what kind of car they want, what's their current payment, what do they want for their trade. We put ourselves in this situation where we allow the customer to give us their dream numbers, and then we fight to try and figure out how to fit a car into those numbers. Right. And it's just not doing anybody a service at all. And so we now have found ourselves, especially people who have been in the business a long time, challenging everything that we've learned. Because a lot of it was trial by terror.
Yeah.
A lot of it's trial by terror. So, you know, we think that we have these proven processes in the car business, and we don't have anything other than we've done it that way for a long time, and right. We still sell cars. But I think a lot of times we sell cars in spite of ourselves. So it's just that, I mean, challenges are, it's uncomfortable to change. It's uncomfortable to do something new. It's uncomfortable to have someone tell you that something that you've been doing for 15, 20 years, essentially you could have done it better. And so it makes you feel like, you know, if you really take pride in your skills and in your job, and you know, you want to feel proud of yourself for your time that you've put into doing what you love, and right. Somebody comes in and says, hey, you know you've been doing this for most of your career, but here are the 18 different ways that you've been doing it wrong.
Right.
You know, it can be a blow to the ego, but Definitely. You just can't look at it that way. Right. You just can't. You have to look at it like, I'm so lucky that I had these 10 to 15 years prior to this, because this is so much easier for me now to execute. And now I really see how exciting it is that I'm able to approach this in this different way. And, you know, now we still have team members who are a little bit slower to pick up on things, or they're frightened, or they cut corners. But we now have most of our staff just lockstep on this, and we get excited now about looking for opportunities to improve. That's where I high five. You know, everybody wants to get, you know, sensitive about making mistakes, and I just think it's totally useless to do that, because every day we fail. And if I have a day that was awesome and I haven't identified an opportunity to improve, I still want to look for it, you know? So,
absolutely. So yeah. Something that you said to me when we talked last week was, and I really was into your management style. So you tell me about these meetings that you have with your team members on a weekly basis, because I don't know how common it is to have, you know, such good meetings with the staff, like on a regular basis, the way that you have.
So I don't know if we have good meetings, but we meet every day.
That's amazing. So you meet with your team every single day?
Every day, first thing in the morning. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Every day. And well, it's important that you communicate. and that you give people an open forum for communication, and that you set the tone for the day,
Right.
and that you get caught up on yesterday and make sure that there's no loose ends, and that you don't meet for too long. Some people may occasionally accuse me of being long-winded, but yeah, we meet. And at first, when I came here, that was the expectation, and I thought, my God, what am I going to, how am I going to have a meeting every day?
Right.
But it's easy. The morning ones during the week they're not super content loaded. That's just more of the, daily cleanup, housekeeping.
Right.
But Monday mornings and Saturday mornings, we have a sales meeting, and we will practice, we'll role play. It's very important that we keep, we talk about goals and where we are, where we're pacing, and how do we get to, where do we need to be in a week, and then how do you get there? And then we do skills brush up. And we do, we'll do scenarios. We'll pass out worksheets. We'll do presentations. We'll do objection handling. And so people are always a little on their toes because they know they're going to potentially be put on the spot. But that's how we keep people, that's how we keep people excited. And yeah. So, and I have a good team, and I hire people now differently. Now that that so many of us have gone through this transformation and thinking.
Right.
And I think that's what it takes to really challenge yourself to do things completely differently than you had done them in the past.
Right.
You really have to work hard to be a beginner again.
So
and to be open-minded.
Yeah, when you and I first met was right at the beginning of COVID. It was the beginning of April when we had met. So since that time, what processes or changes that you've made for the consumer experience at your store has been working for you? Because I know you said that you're selling cars like crazy and you guys are really busy. So I'm curious as to what is working right now for you guys.
Really, we're almost back to what we were doing before, except for what's that?
That's great.
Yeah, but during COVID that was insane. I mean, that we changed our processes
right
every 5 to 7 days because everything kept changing. It was like you couldn't sell anything. And so we were framing it as we're reserving this for as soon as we can be open again.
Right.
And then you could sell by appointment, but no test drives. Like you could just schedule you could do only online, and then they could come in for delivery. And then they made it so that you could come in to do everything by appointment, but there was all the other rules. And then, and each time there would be a shift, I'd have like a few more staff, but never enough. So we, these guys, and then we have an internet department, and we did, and then suddenly there's nobody. It's us. It's me and my managers. We're like, selling cars, doing the leads, and then slowly shifting more and more people to. I mean, there were days when, often that my whole sales team, we'd get together and we'd be like, okay, that thing that was really awesome and worked really well last week is not working anymore. We have to shift again. What should we do?
Right.
So that was, I'm sure it was a great experience. It didn't feel great at the time. It felt like really, really super exhausting.
Right.
But now we put back into place all the same processes that we did before.
Right.
And we've added to our process presenting a couple of the most popular back-end products up front. I don't have my salespeople pitching them. They're not qualified to do that. But basically what we've experienced is that most of our customers are happy with us, but there's a common theme in some of the negative surveys that we get, which is that people don't appreciate settling in on a payment and then going into the finance office and suddenly having to consider yet another purchase to protect their investment.
Right.
So we just give people their options up front, and it's been working really, really well. Customers appreciate it, but it's another process that my salespeople are like, how are we going to do that? We already get people that are so upset about these payments, and now we're going to show them payments with $50, $60 worth of product in them, and it will never work. But it does. People are thrilled about it. It's all in the way we think about it. If you present something to someone and you're positive about how they're going to respond, you will make it all about what you think. And we hurt ourselves so much in this business by being afraid of what our customers will say, feeling like we know what our customers are going to object to, and trying to avoid hearing those objections. It's just not fair to any of us to behave that way. So we basically, our processes are around simplifying everything and dumbing it down so that we're just simply doing the same thing every time for every customer,
Right.
and letting the customer choose what makes sense for them.
I love that. So if there was another GM or GSM or someone on the operational side who was looking to get a hold of you to kind of discuss how to change some of their internal processes, to kind of go through your experiences, Maureen, or talk to you more about what you guys do at your store, how would they get in touch with you?
I mean, I email, LinkedIn, my cell phone.
Okay. What's your email address so they can email you after seeing this?
It's mbbailey@lithia.com.
Okay, awesome. And you're on LinkedIn also, so they could always connect with you there.
I am. Sure,
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking this much
Yeah.
time to talk to me.
You're welcome.
And
Of
we
course.
definitely, I know we talked, a couple times recently, but we need to do this more.
Yes. Yeah. And with more strong automotive females.
That's right. Thanks so much, Maureen.
Okay.